On this episode of the Ask Elliot Show, I'm going to answer one of the most pressing questions for people interested in doing solution-focused brief therapy with couples. So stay tuned. Before we even get into answering the questions, I want to tell you where I am in solution-focused brief therapy and what's been going on with me lately. Because a lot of stuff is going through my mind and really inspiring me and making me really excited. A couple weeks ago, I was on a teaching trip to the Netherlands and Ottawa. And as I teach and write and work, I can't help but continue to think, scrutinize, analyze, and kind of evolve the way I'm doing therapy. And I noticed some trends coming up when I was doing this work over in the Netherlands. And it just has really, really inspired me. And just today, I was talking to my really, really close friend, Dr. Adam Frower, and he's also my partner and research partner and all that stuff. And we were talking about where we are in solution-focused brief therapy and some of the things that are so important, even more than the techniques, because it seems as though there are certain things you have to be able to do when you're working with clients that goes way beyond knowledge of techniques. It's about really believing in your client's capacity to change and really believing in your client's ability to answer your questions and really, really believing in your client's ability to be their own lever of change, to be their own asset. And it's just such an exciting time to be doing solution-focused brief therapy and to be talking about solution-focused brief therapy because we're getting so much better. Screen went. Leslie! There we go. If I say Leslie during this, it means I need my one of my people here that supported me to come and help with the live camera. But it's just such an interesting time to be working on solution-focused brief therapy and honing our solution-focused brief therapy skills. And as a field, we're getting so much better at being able to describe the differences between solution-focused brief therapy and problem approaches to therapy. So this is just exciting. So here we go. Let's just get into it. So we're going to answer a really, really important question today. And the question came from Anna Francis. Anna Francis, who wants to know, Anna Francis is someone who says she loves solution-focused brief therapy, which is cool. Remember, you got to have confidence in this approach if you're going to be able to do it with your clients. But she wants to know, what do you do if only one member of the couple is willing to come to therapy? And that's a very, very common issue. That's a very, very common problem. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Let me express the way we work with those type of clients. What do you do when one member of the couple does not come to therapy? And before I even address that, let me tell you kind of where I evolved and how my thoughts about this particular aspect of doing solution-focused brief therapy came to me. So when I started doing solution-focused brief therapy in private practice, so many couples started coming into my office, and I've told this story and I've said this stuff 1,000 times. It was so difficult for me because all these couples were coming and I didn't feel like I was well trained. I didn't feel like I could find enough resources. I mean, Michelle Weiner Davis had written some great work and done some great things. I'm such a huge fan of her work even today. But most of the material I was finding even from Michelle was about the couple and not about the clinician and how to actually do this work with couples. So I just felt really, really stuck. And very often, the wife would come and say, the husband doesn't want to come to therapy and view this as a bad sign for the relationship. And, or the husband would come and the wife wouldn't have come and he would be viewing this as a bad sign for the relationship. And we just do solution-focused brief therapy the way we do it. The wonderful thing about solution-focused brief therapy is we practice it the way we practice it with the people that showed up for therapy. And I'll never forget, somebody put this in words much better than I ever could, so I'm going to use his words. When I was in England, for the very first training I ever participated in England, almost 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, somewhere around there, Chris Iveson was teaching. And he said that one of his favorite things about solution-focused brief therapy is no matter who comes to therapy, everyone in the client's life, everyone in that person's life seems to be elevated and benefit from it. And I thought long and hard about that. And you know what? That's absolutely true. And if we talk about it negatively, it becomes more clear on how true that is, right? So, for example, if I go to a really stressful place and I experience a lot of stress and I have a horrible day and I go home, don't you notice that everybody else's mood de-escalates? Everybody else's mood goes down. Everybody gets a little anxious. I was just talking to a friend yesterday, how I have a friend who's just terribly anxious all the time. And whenever I'm around her, I feel myself getting anxious because that stuff is contagious. Well, why wouldn't happiness be contagious? Why wouldn't positive things be contagious? So what do when one member of the couple shows up? We simply do solution-focused brief therapy with that person and treat them like the system, which we would do anyway. Now, I just said that while I was in the Netherlands, I got really, really inspired. And I met a young lady. Who had come to talk, and in the beginning, she really couldn't even describe what she wanted from therapy. But in literally the first 3 minutes, she starts talking about the relationship in her life, her relationship with her partner, and how much she wanted that to change. And as I always say, solution-focused brief therapy happens one statement at a time, utterance by utterance. So I'm going to ask this person questions, and if they say things that are related to their relationship, then my next question is going to be related to their relationship. And I will never forget, the following day, I'm getting on a plane, and I get a message through social media from that person telling me that everything in the relationship had changed, and her and her partner were having the best time they'd had in 10 years. I mean, we have to go away from this idea that like both members of the couple have to be present and equally motivated in order for therapy to work. That's not true, because most of the time that's not what happens. I would love to tell you that every time a couple comes to my office, I have two people sitting there saying, I'm really excited for therapy and I'm excited for everything to go well, but that's usually not what happens. Whenever you're doing psychotherapy with a couple, somebody in the room is probably real hurt, real pissed, and doesn't want to be in the room, and the other person is real remorseful and is wanting the therapy to work. But that's just fine. All we need is that, and then the couple becomes their own agent of change. I remember when I was learning to be a psychotherapist and I was studying this stuff, they would tell me that you have to have both members present. All these therapists would tell me I don't even see couples unless they're both willing and be engaged in the process. And there's no research to support that you need two people equally motivated in order for psychotherapy to work. In fact, when we're doing solution-focused brief therapy, we find that the outcomes maintain consistent whether both people are there or not. So, it was a long way of saying, what do you do when you are practicing solution-focused brief therapy and one member of the couple does not show up? You conduct a solution-focused session, building your questions utterance by utterance, coming from the client's words to yours. And the relationship will become important via their responses, and then you build your questions that involve their relationship, and then amazing, amazing things happen, even to people who weren't present in the session. So, hope that answers your question. This is from Keiko, and Keiko says, what do you do when the client doesn't believe in self and feels defeated, that they even, when we talk about the miracle picture or best hopes, he or she keeps saying, it wouldn't happen to me because I am such and such? What a timely question. I was literally just talking to Adam Frower about that just today. Because every now and then, clients, I mean, think about it, right? If you're like, 44 years old, and you had parents who told you you were never going to amount to anything, and then you got your heart broken and you were not the popular kid in school, and all of these horrible bad things happened to you while you were going through your educational process, and then you go off to college and you meet this person you think is going to be the love of your life, and they completely destroy you and break your trust, and you get fired from jobs, and you never really find out that thing you're great at, and you come to therapy and some guy says, or some gal says, like, what are your best hopes, and what do you want to have happen to you, and what are you wonderful about? People really sometimes just don't even view themselves as worthy of success. I saw a client that fits that perspective absolutely very recently, and, I really have come to a place where in order to do solution-focused brief therapy, you have to believe in your absolute bones, in your client's ability to be their own agent of change and to find their agent of success. All of us have resources that allow us to be who we are at our very, very best, or we wouldn't exist. So even when people don't believe in it, when they can't see it, you have to be tenacious, and you have to be persistent, and you have to continue to ask those people questions to help them identify the words that they use to describe what their agent of success is and describe their resources. Because once I have the words, once I have the ability to develop questions to highlight that, it becomes more illuminated to the client. Like they're able to say things like, you know what? Even though I had a difficult time through high school, I did have that one friend. And then it allows us to say, what skill did you use to make that one friend? If I called that friend right now, what would they say was the thing about you that drew them to them? And all of a sudden, people start identifying the things about them that are positive, and their ability to see and describe their hope expands, gets bigger. And then the language of the session continues to expand and get bigger as well. So, it's so hard for me to teach solution-focused brief therapy as simply a collection of techniques, because without a very extreme level of belief in your client's competencies, capabilities, resources, then what happens is when you come to a point in the session where it's really, really tough, we abandon the solution building process and revert back to advice giving and problem solving ideologies and things of that nature. And you don't have to do that. You can continue believing in your clients. So when people say things like, I don't know what I want, I simply usually say, take a moment to think. When I was talking to this young lady over in the Netherlands, I'll never forget, I kept asking her, she had a very hard time telling me what her best hopes were. And I'd say, what do you think? And she'd say, nee. It's how you say no in Dutch. And I'd say, take a moment to think. And she would think real hard and shake her head and say, nee. And I'd say, would you mind thinking again? And she would take a moment to think, and she'd say, nee. And I said, well, it's really hard for me to do therapy. Would you mind thinking one more time? And then she'd come up with an answer. But it took so many times to ask the question. You really have to believe in your client's ability to answer your questions and answer your questions in positive, meaningful ways that lead to change. So again, that was a long-winded answer to your question, but what do you do when people can't describe what they want and they don't have that kind of belief in themselves? You keep asking them gently, respectfully, politely, but tenaciously. Don't give up, because the answer is within them. The moment you forget, or the moment you stop believing the answer is within them, you're no longer doing solution-focused brief therapy. You're doing something else, because our approach is based upon the client's words and their ability to describe their desired outcome. So, hope that helps. Okay, so Enrique's question is, if you have to present SF in an elevator pitch, like 2 to 3 minutes, how could you, and what would you say to show how unique solution-focused brief therapy is? In those early days when I was opening my practice, I used to drive around and drop off business cards, and people would say, what is solution-focused brief therapy? And I would simply tell them this. Most psychotherapy is about identifying the problem, identifying the symptomology of the problem, identifying the roots and the causes of the problem, and that's the way most psychotherapy is conducted. CBT and all that stuff. That's the way most psychotherapy is conducted. Solution-focused brief therapy is about identifying the desired outcome, identifying the resources you have within you to make that desired outcome a reality, and having a conversation that leads to the co-creation of that desired outcome. And when I simply pitch it that way, which takes me about a minute and a half, people understand, oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense. So that's exactly how I would describe solution-focused brief therapy in those short, kind of pitchy ways. Solution-focused brief therapy is about identifying your desired outcome, the resources you have within you to make that desired outcome a reality, and the ability to co-construct that desired outcome. So, hope that helps. We're probably about a time where we should wrap up. Call this an episode. Episode 4 will be in the books. Thank everybody for checking in. Thank everybody for commenting and watching this live. This is a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do some more live ones in the future. Thanks to everybody who sent in comments. Keep filling up my inbox. Keep filling up my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and maybe Snapchat. I'm trying to play around with Snapchat a little bit. If you want your questions answered on the next episode of the Ask Elliot Show, just post on any of those platforms with hashtag Ask Elliot. I will find it, I will address it, and I respond to each and every comment on each and every platform. And don't forget, you want to be on my email list, because I'll send out a monthly solution-focused brief therapy digest, which you gotta check out, and I will give you loads of free things. I'm really motivated for people to really master solution-focused brief therapy. Like, I just don't want you to know this stuff. I want you to know how to do it. And I will do everything and give you every resource imaginable to help you be able to do that. And all you gotta do is click right there, and you're gonna be able to join my email list to get the monthly digest and to get all of those three things that I'll be giving away, webinars and resources and everything I can think of that'll help you master this approach. So we're gonna sign off. I'm on my way to England. I'm gonna be taking a plane on the other side of the ocean. So follow me on all those platforms, by the way, because I'll be taking pictures. I'm gonna be hanging out with my bro Chris Iveson, my bro Harvey Ratner, my bro Evan George. I'm gonna be teaching in London, and I'm gonna be teaching in Brighton, and you're not gonna want to miss some of the stuff I'll be posting and sharing. So follow me on those platforms. Click right here to get my monthly Solution Focus Brief Digest.